wisdom. Today's topic is the civil rights movement. So listen carefully, guys. So I'm going to begin. The civil rights movement was a non-violent social and political movement in the campaign from 1954 to 1968 in the United States to abolish legalized institutional racial segregation, discrimination, and disfranchisement. Throughout the United States, the movement had its origins in the Reconstruction era during the late 19th century. Although it made its largest legislative gains in 1960s, after years of direct actions and grassroots protests, the social movement's major non-violent resistance and civil disobedience campaigns eventually secured the new protection in the federal law for the civil rights of Americans. Civil rights movement. After the American Civil War and the subsequent abolition of the slavery in the 1860s, the Reconstruction Amendments to the United States Constitution granted emancipation and constitutional rights of citizenship to all African Americans, most of whom had recently been enslaved. For a short period of time, African American men voted and held political office, but as time went on, they were increasingly deprived of civil rights, often under the racist Jim Crow laws. And the African Americans were subjected to discrimination and sustained violence by white supremacists in the South. Over the following century, various efforts were made by African Americans to secure their legal and civil rights, such as the Civil Rights Movement in 1865 and 1896, and the Civil Rights Movement 1896-1954. The movement was characterized by non-violent mass protest and civil disobedience following highly publicized events such as the lynching of Emmett Till. This including boycotts such as the Montgomery bus boycott, sit-in and in Greensboro and Nashville, and marches from the Selma to Montgomery. At the culmination of a legal strategy pursued by African Americans, in 1954, the Supreme Court struck down many of the laws that had allowed racial segregation and discrimination to be legal in the United States as an unconstitutional. The Warren Court made a series of landmark rulings against racist discrimination, including the separate but equal doctrine, such as Brown v. Board of Education, Heart of Atlanta Motel, and United States, Loving Virginia, 1967, which banned segregation in the public schools and public accommodation and struck down all the state laws banning interracial marriage. The rulings played a crucial role in bringing an end to the segregationist Jim Crow laws prevalent in southern states. In 1960s, moderate in the movement worked with the United States Congress, to achieve the passage of several significant pieces of federal legislation that authorize oversight and enforcement of civil rights laws. So, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 explicitly banned all discrimination based on race, including racial segregation in schools, businesses, and in public accommodation. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 restored and protected voting rights by authorizing federal oversight of registration and elections in areas with historic underrepresentation and minority voters. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 banned discrimination in the sale or rental of housing. So what I've explained, by the way, are almost all of them, they are key points. I didn't waste any time explaining a long thing that doesn't make any sense. So all of these things are key points. So if you didn't listen carefully, you can go back and listen carefully. Just go back maybe where I started, or rewatch the video so that you can understand. Because I know I really speak fast. Many people complain that I speak fast, but that's how I speak, because I hate wasting time. I don't like wasting time. So guys, it's very important that you listen carefully. African Americans re-entered politics in the South, and young people across the country began to take action. From 1964 to 1970, a wave of riots and protests in black communities deepened support from the white middle class, but increased support from the private foundations. Clarification needed. The emergence of the Black Power movement, which lasted from 1965 to 1975, challenged black leaders of the movement for its comparative attitude and its adhering to legislation and non-violence. Its leaders demanded not only legal equality, but also economic self-sufficiency for the community. Support for the Black Power movement came from African Americans who had seen little material improvement since the civil rights movement peak in the mid-1960s and still faced discrimination in jobs, housing, and education and politics. Martin Luther King Jr. is often cited as the most visible leader of the movement. However, some scholars note that the movement was too diverse to be credited to any particular person, organization, or strategy. So, based on the topic, if you didn't understand, just go back and rewatch the video so that you can understand. So, for more grade 11 topics like communism in Russia, by the way, which is a grade 11 topic, I've left the description. By the way, it's not a description, it's a link in the description. I've left it there. You can check it out. It's very important that you watch that video also and understand. Remember, the point of this video is to release key points, only key points, not to make the video as long as possible. So I've released key points. Everything I've said is very important. So guys, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Peace.